Here's something that will blow your mind. Your heart beats about 2.5 billion times in your lifetime. But what happens when this incredible machine starts to fail? Today we're diving into systolic dysfunction, where that powerful pump begins to sputter.
You know what fascinates me about this topic? It's like when a well oiled machine starts breaking down, except this particular machine keeps us alive.
Let me tell you about this crucial measurement called ejection fraction, or EF. Think of it as your heart's report card. A healthy heart pumps out 50 to 55% of its blood with each beat. But when it drops below that, we're in trouble territory.
Hmm. And there are three main villains in this story of heart failure, right? Each one messes with the heart in its own unique way.
Exactly right. First up is what I call the calcium chaos. Imagine millions of tiny spark plugs in your heart, but instead of firing at the right moment, they're completely out of sync. These spark plugs, actually calcium ions, are leaking through damaged gates called ryanodine receptors.
Oh, and don't forget about that cleanup crew, the SERCA2A pump. That's supposed to be managing all this calcium, but basically goes on strike.
Well, that's just the beginning. The second problem involves these amazing proteins called actin and myosin. They're supposed to work together like a perfect zipper, but in systolic dysfunction, it's like trying to zip up a jacket with half the teeth missing.
You know what really gets me? The third issue, the energy crisis. Because even a heart needs its fuel, right?
Oh man, let me tell you about this energy crisis. Those cellular power plants, mitochondria, start failing, and suddenly it's like trying to run a factory on a dying battery. The heart switches to emergency backup power, anaerobic metabolism, but that just creates more problems.
Speaking of problems, what actually causes all this in the first place? I mean, there must be some major triggers.
Well, heart attacks are a big one. They leave behind dead zones of scar tissue that can never contract again. Then there's dilated cardiomyopathy, where the heart becomes like an overinflated balloon, and chronic high blood pressure, which is like forcing your heart to push against a brick wall with every beat.
That's exactly why surgery becomes so tricky for these patients, isn't it? I mean, you're taking an already struggling system and putting it under even more stress.
Right? And this is where anesthesiologists earn their keep. They have to use specific medications like etomidate because it's gentler on the heart, and they need to be incredibly precise with fluid management. Too much floods the lungs, too little starves the tissues.
Um, let's talk about the warning signs. What should people be watching for?
So the classic signs include extreme fatigue, like you've run a marathon when you've just walked across the room. Many patients can't lie flat because fluid backs up into their lungs. That's called orthopnea. And their hands and feet often turn cold and pale because blood isn't reaching the extremities.
And doctors can actually see all this happening with special tests, right?
Absolutely fascinating stuff. They use echocardiograms to watch the heart in real time, like a live movie of the heart squeezing. They also measure this hormone called BNP that spikes when the heart is stressed. It's like a distress signal the heart sends out.
You know what I find really interesting? How far we've come in treating this condition. I mean, even a few decades ago, many of these patients wouldn't have survived surgery.
That's right. Modern medicine has given us incredible tools. We've got medications like beta blockers and ACE inhibitors to help optimize heart function, sophisticated monitoring equipment to track every heartbeat during surgery, and even special drugs to help boost the heart's squeezing power when needed.
Well, what about the long-term outlook for these patients?
It really depends on several factors. If a patient's ejection fraction stays above 40% and they respond well to medications, their outlook can be quite good. But if it drops below 30%, or if they're having frequent heart failure episodes despite treatment, they're facing a much tougher road.
Sounds like managing this condition is really a team effort between the patient and their healthcare providers.
You know what? That's exactly right. Success depends on this delicate partnership, taking medications correctly, monitoring for warning signs, making lifestyle changes. It's like conducting an orchestra where every instrument has to play its part perfectly.
This has really opened my eyes to how complex our hearts are and how remarkable it is that we can help them keep beating even when things go wrong.
Indeed, and while systolic dysfunction is certainly serious, modern medicine has given us the tools to help many patients not just survive, but thrive. It's a testament to human ingenuity and our understanding of this amazing organ that keeps us all alive. Stay tuned to Optimal Anesthesia Insights.